For 54 years, daytime TV brought you As the World Turns. Today, the first episode of As the Horse Turns, helping you, we hope, deal with some of those confusions related to turn on the haunches and turn on the forehand. Let's talk to this rider for a moment.
All right, so let's make a turn on the forehand. Never mind. So just do a turn on the haunches instead.
Just knowing which end goes around the other sometimes is complicated enough. And here, a visualization can help. For turn on the forehand, imagine a small boat moored to a buoy in the middle of a tidal stream. When the tide turns, the boat will swing around and face the opposite way. But the front end, the pointy end, the pole, whatever, always points at that one red buoy, just like this. Looking at an actual turn on the forehand, the horse is on the bit, he marches in rhythm, he looks a little left as he moves away from the left leg at the girth, he's supported by the outside aids, he keeps the rhythm of the walk as he turns, and he moves off promptly into trot. Once again, he's walking, the inside rein doesn't pull him around, it keeps him soft, he's yielded from the right leg at the girth, and he moves into the outside aids and stays in front of the leg throughout. This is an old-fashioned turn on the forehand. This is the kind you might have done as a pony clubber 40 years ago. The horse was approximately stationary against the wall, and the front end stayed in place as the back end swung around without much regard to rhythm, acceptance, or connection. It was simply a rudimentary obedience exercise. You put your inside leg behind the girth and shove the hindquarters around, and especially if you rode with most German instructors, once your horse could do it, it was put on the shelf and was never seen again, as you were encouraged to progress to more sophisticated exercises like the shoulder four. Leg yielding was performed in a similar way and also given short shrift as anything other than a primitive introductory exercise. In the early 1970s, Colonel Gustav Nobleus of Sweden became chairman of the FEI Dressage Committee, and largely due to his influence and that of another Swedish committee chairman, Eric Letta, leg yielding was gradually looked upon differently in the U.S. As I explain in My Leg Goes Where, an article which you'll find in my book as well as on my website, if you do these exercises with your inside leg at the girth to displace the horse's center of gravity, and you support the horse's hindquarters with your outside leg behind the girth, you can keep redirecting the horse's energy forward into the outside rein, keep his outside shoulder in line, and make suppleness and balance primary themes. Here you can see that the turn on the forehand is really just a kind of leg yield, where the proportion of the aids brings the horse stepping around the inside front instead of proceeding on across the diagonal. In all cases, the inner leg at the girth displaces the horse, the inner rein does relatively little, it's light and soft, only positioning, and the outside aids keep the horse forward, but not forward running through the hand. Keep these ideas in mind for turns on the forehand and later on the haunches. First of all, your horse has to be attentive. If he sleepwalks through the movement and only pays lip service to your aids, the movement won't do you any good. Second, this is a bottomless cart. I took this picture in Germany, and the cows are being escorted down the road, totally surrounded by, if you will, the aids. Not against the hand, not against the leg, holding themselves up and centered. Number 3, the aids that you use must be alive and conversational. Each aid should only last the duration of a footfall. Then it ceases and is repeated again in its time. No gripping, no bulldozing legs, no grabbing hands or locked wrists. You have a lot to do keeping all those plates spinning. Neither you nor your horse can get stuck. And number 4, like my vending machine shown here, preparation is universal. The potential to do any exercise must be alive in the horse at every moment, and the horse is never allowed to tell you, sorry, make another selection. So let's look at some examples.
Think forward. That's forward. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, now there she got behind your outside leg. Walk on. Track left. Think frontwards. Step into it. Step into it. Step forward. Keep step forward. Walk out of it. That one was better. So, stuck. She's stuck. Whenever that happens, just go forward and get out of it. Don't. Right? Come to walk. Collect a little bit. Start the turn on the forehand and go. Go. That's better. That's right. Down into the bit, lower, trot. That's right. And circle. And make another one off the right leg. And now make one that's pretty small, but still in motion. And a lot of crossing. That's it. Now left. And trot.
As you've seen, sometimes working on this exercise, horses get behind the leg. Sometimes they lose the rhythm. Other times they just don't come through all the way, and then we can use this remedial exercise. Essentially, it's a 10-meter circle, and you ride it in shoulder in and gradually increase the angle more and more so the angle gets bigger and the horse is still in front of the leg and being pushed forward through the top line into the bridle. And the circle gets smaller and the angle gets bigger, and the next thing you know, you're doing a few steps of real turn on the forehand and then back out.
Keep it fairly big, not much bend, but a big angle, like a lot of sideways, but big in front. That much, yeah, like that. And gradually make it smaller, but more sideways. Like make the back end almost go around the front end now. Sideways, right hind cross, that's it. Like the crosses a lot. Step by step, half halt by half halt. Halt now. All right, and walk on out of it a little rounder.
For turn on the haunches, we need a different visualization. Let's try a clock face and imagine that your horse's body is the hand of the clock. His tail is right at the center of the clock face. The front end follows around the numbers if he's turning on the haunches to the right, from 12 to 1 to 2 and so forth. The important thing to remember is that the hindquarters never deviate in the opposite direction. That would produce a dreaded turn on the center and surely make you an object of derision among your peers. The horse you're looking at right here is a more advanced one, and he is making a walk pirouette. Same as the turn on the haunches, but with more collection and the circle of the hind legs much smaller. This is what turn on the haunches to the left looks like. The horse keeps some bending through his body mildly to the inside. He looks the way he's turning, unlike in the turn on the forehand. He stays active behind, keeping the rhythm, stepping under with his outside hind leg, not stepping out. Here's a less advanced horse doing the same exercise, turning on the haunches to the right. In the same way that turn on the forehand was related to leg yielding, turn on the haunches is related to half pass. The horse bent around the left leg here, moving away from the right leg behind the girth, stepping in the direction of his bend, and then returning to the half pass, making his way back to the track. There are some other interesting exercises, remedial ones. If the horse likes to get stuck behind, you can make travers or haunches in on a 10-meter circle and gradually bring the circle in more and more, focusing the horse onto the back end, but still keeping the same rhythm. On the other hand, if the horse wants to rush through the exercise and fall sideways through the inner leg, you can pause, continue, and pause. You wouldn't do this in a test, but you can do this to remind the horse to wait for your aids and not fall onto his inside shoulder. Here's another useful exercise for horses that won't stay in the outside rein and around the inside seat and leg when you try to do the turn on the haunches.
So turn on the haunches. Half halt by half halt by half halt by half halt, and now boom, out, boom, kick. Yeah, that's right. I mean, it has to be, see, this is essentially a remedial thing, so it has to show when he needs it. Do it one more time. And if he loses the rhythm when he jumps out, that's fine. Just kick the front end out. All right, but going forward at the same time, okay? A little bit going forward. One more time. Now forward and out. Shove. All right, we'll live with it. That's okay. Last time the same. This time keeping the rhythm, opening the right rein to guide him out. Okay. Keeping him looking left. And forward and out. That's the one. Yeah. That's exactly the one.
Here's a maybe. Don't try this one at home on your own. Sometimes horses don't fulfill the ultimate expectation in turn on the haunches, which is to load the hindquarters. So we can stop and back. And as he backs, not rushing back, but using his hindquarters and staying forward, then we turn, then we back, then we turn. But this has to be totally on the aids. It can never be an evasion, or don't you dare try it. So let's finish with a few real-world practical examples of turns on the haunches. This is a second-level horse. He's active. He shows a little bit of tension. He marches well through the turn. A little bit loss of connection at the end. And now one to the opposite direction. Again, keeping the rhythm, stepping nicely around his inside hind leg. Not quite settled in the bridle, but pretty good. Now one from a third level test. This walk could be more active. Again, the horse is accepting the aids fairly well. He'll turn on the haunches to the right. The steps could be better marked, a little bit more active, but otherwise fairly good. He got a 7 for this. That one was even a little bit better, except you might have noticed he did them both in the same direction, and the judge, oops, didn't catch it, but such is life. She eventually figured it out, but not until the test was much farther along. And now a horse in the intermediaire. This is me on my old FEI horse Wahlberg. And these would qualify as fairly decent walk pirouettes, which are the more advanced version of the turn on the haunches. Bending left, keeping the rhythm behind, stepping through, and then on to the canter depart. Ahead a few notches as we finish. This is where your turn on the haunches goes. In the canter, it becomes a pirouette. Half pirouette in pre-St. George, full pirouette in the higher levels. Same basic principles: inside bend, balance, horse carries himself. So that's our take on turn on the haunches and turn on the forehand for today. Hope that helps a little bit. This is Bill Woods. And a shout out to Janet. Final score of the turn on the forehand game, Ruby 1, Clock Radio, nothing.